And we're back with a brand new one, and we are gonna jump straight in. It's Table for One off our album Cure for Breathing, which was the previous album. Got a new album coming out in like less than 2 weeks, so that's quite exciting. But I'm excited to dive into this one. I was just scrolling through it before I went live on this recording, and there's some interesting stuff. Like, I feel like these choruses sound nice and big and nice and baked and kind of like a wall of sound, and I just want to take you guys through how we treated the bass elements and the guitar elements to kind of fit together like a puzzle. So let's just jump straight in. So this is the tune. It's been 6 months since I've seen you horizontally. This distance. Let's just break down what's going on here. So I printed this from something. Okay, Nexus found a Rhodes style bass, played that in there. That's just this. 6 months since. And the cool thing about that is, like, we start off with this synth bass. We kind of carry on the verse with synth bass, and then we go to piano. Really simple, but what's cool, I think, is the second we get to the chorus is when the real bass elements come in. So we've heard no guitar bass, we've heard no like real kind of low end 808 bass, we've heard nothing like in the actual sub that's gonna hit hard. I mean, the Rhodes gets down there, but it's nothing like an 808. And then we come in with this. This is the chorus. And the bass elements are sort of multifaceted. We've got the real low sub, which is just, I think, probably an 808. Yep, it's New Era. And they have some great samples in here. I highly recommend this. And then on top of that, we've got a bass layer. This is interesting. So basically, they're just held out, and then every time the bass note changes, they have a little lick, like dun, dun, da, da, dun. So that gets added to this. So that one's been actually played. I haven't got a huge amount going on there, but it's going to a nice limiter to just give it a lot more push. That's going really quite hard on it. And then the Helios, which I've mentioned before, is one of my absolute favorites to start poking bass elements through. And so when I talk about like a wall of sound, my thought with that is like, I want the guitars to have like the high harmonic content, but then I want like the grit of the bass, the power of the bass, the low notes in the bass to poke through slightly higher. So it feels like the bass is really loud, but what's really happening is it's not much louder, but it's just got a little notch where it pokes through and like the bass is really present. So it feels really aggressive. And for this, in the Helios, we're around 1K here, and we're pushing a lot. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the hell I know how much this is pushing. Someone in the comments can tell me about that, but we're pushing a lot. I mean, I'm guessing it's like 10 dB, maybe more. For me, that makes a huge difference, and the bass just suddenly pockets with the guitar in a really nice way. So that's that. Low end chug guitars, and then let's just get into the actual guitar stack. So this is a lot more sort of like held out harmonic content. And then if we just go to the guitar bus, I think that's cool to look at. So I run all the electric guitars into this guitar bus, and essentially it just glues everything together. We take out a bunch of the low end, probably taking out some more mud here. Yeah, so to me in the guitar, like, that's always the two problem areas. You've got that like slightly brash frequency that pokes through a little too much sometimes, and it's like not nice to listen to. And then you've also got the mud that just clogs up everything and always can like fuck up the bass or start interfering with like the low end of a vocal. So I'd love to get rid of that. I put a filter on there all the time just to be able to manipulate the guitar tone throughout the track. Like in the verse, I might like duck it down a little bit, take a bit of the highs out, and like leave space for the vocals and other elements. Soothe on the guitar track is an interesting choice, basically again to get rid of some of that harshness that's going on, and then a limiter at the end just to kind of bake everything together and keep it consistent throughout. So that's the guitars. Let's just jump into the drums. Is Superior Drummer, again my favorite drum instrument, quite simply, and sounds great. It's the rock kit that we've put together, just basically tested out a bunch of different drums. and kind of found what we thought was the biggest. And the cool thing about this is like when we print Superior Drummer, the room itself, we get to then dial in how much actual room we want in like the final mix. Like we'll send the mix stems off to right now Joel, who's an absolute rock star, and he will basically take a little bit of that room, decide how much room we actually want in it, and get the drums sounding really, really massive. And because Superior is such an amazing instrument, you can control every single aspect of the drum recording. That VST, it's amazing. Let's just jump into the bridge quickly. Okay, yeah, no, let's go to post first. So that's actually me just screaming and yobbing off into a mic. That's just me literally humming and distorting the hell out of it and putting it through an amp, putting it through sidechain, putting it through more distortion, dimension expander, which is incredible, and it just gives it a bit more size. So before and after. You feel it really fills out everything there. And then again, filter just kind of being able to control this at different parts of the song. So, and I love posts like that where a bit of synth kind of gets involved in a rock song. I think it's like blending worlds together in a cool way. I love integrating little bits of EDM. I think EDM from a production standpoint is incredibly impressive. And I know that like in pop and rock music, like producers are bringing more and more aspects that have been in EDM for a long time into their productions to just make it tighter. It's been 6 months and I dream about you constantly. Is this love or is that? So let's just get into this really quickly. I love a spacey bridge. So like the difference between a chorus and a bridge can be really sort of ramped up by the effects you put on the guitars in the bridge and different instruments in the bridge that haven't been anywhere else, right? Like if I had like spacey stuff going on in the chorus and then I kept the spacey stuff in the bridge, we wouldn't have that same like dynamic transition where bridge is just really slowed down and then you get to the massive chorus again, and it allows you just to create that like ramp up in energy from like lower energy into the high energy. But let me just go through a couple plugins that I really love. Spacer, this thing's incredible. Essentially, like it's like a reverb, a delay. You can put like chorus effect on it. It's great, and it allows you to put a guitar in a different space, an instrument in a completely different space really quickly. And so we're using that. We're using a bit of RC20, which is an absolute classic. Basically just make it sound a bit lo-fi. We got more spacer. This is an interesting one. So like I put auto tune on the guitar because maybe it was slightly out of tune, and you can just go into auto tune, put instrument setting on and find the key, and it will really help just like tighten up some slightly loose tunings that we had going on at the time. And that saved me lots of times because you really want to capture like the vibe at the time you're making it. And if you have to go back and like retrack every guitar again, you know, there's something to be said for like that magic in the room that day, even in guitars, even in like instrumentation. I know lots of people will go back and like retrack it completely. I like working with what I've got and like making it sound a bit different than just like a completely standard guitar. Like if we have to put auto tune on it, like why the fuck not? I think it sounds cool. So this also, it's kind of just a vibe going on in the background, just slowly ramping up the filter. Simplon, really easy filter, high fab filter, it's free, I'm pretty sure. I just use that the whole time. Vintage Verb, doubler, just to make it nice and wide. And yeah, that's the stack that's in the bridge. And then as we come out of the bridge, we just transition into the chorus again. So. Yeah, so to me, it's just like you've got that really spacey thing, massively spacey. Drums start coming in, you're like, okay, what's going on? That's like the driest element that's been in for a minute. They still have a bit of space to them, but then when you get hit with that wall of sound again, it does the thing. Like it's a massive jump up in energy, and that's really important when you're coming out of a bridge, is to have that jump. Sometimes like your bridge can go crazy, and then it's really hard to lift into a final chorus. Like you want to give yourself somewhere to go. And also it's fun experimenting with like kind of different spaces and different like width and ambient textures in a bridge, because again, it allows you to be creative and like do something different. And then, yeah, we've got pretty much the same thing. We go to that post again. Some of the effects, we've got some rises in here. We've got some reverses. So, yeah. And then on our mix bus, real simple. Like, I would normally do more than this. I like to put a gain on the mix bus so that I can constantly control how hot things are getting without going in and taking all the specific tracks down. So gain into my mix bus, then into the plugins on the mix bus, and then into my master bus. So I have the ability to change the gain staging at a lot of different points. I can change it on the gain plugin, I can change it on the actual mix bus fader, and then if worse comes to worse, I could change it on the master bus fader. I never touch the master bus fader, and I don't recommend it, but I have basically a lot of ways to get the gain structure right. Sometimes when you're getting really excited with a track and like you're working and inspired, you don't really give a shit about like the gain structure, and like at the end everything's clipping and like your master bus is cranked and like all your plugins are just completely capped out. But that could be the vibe of the track, and then you have no real way to go back and be like, oh shit, like how do I reset this? Put all the tracks down, and it doesn't really do the same thing because it's not hitting the plugins at the same level. So that's why if you mix into a mix bus with a gain plugin before your mix bus plugins, your gain plugin on the mix bus can basically turn every track down, but not affect what every track is doing into their specific plugins. You can still be clipping out every track, but if you have the gain plugin before on the mix bus, you can then take that whole vibe down before you need to hit all your really important plugins that like get the level baked and make sure that you're not clipping like the master bus. That's a really important thing that I think is useful to just integrate into your flow, into your template. But that's it, guys. Just wanted to dive into Table for One there. Really interesting track that we put out with Don't Say I Didn't Warn You by Craig Owens and us. And yeah, I love this song. Playing it live is seriously fun. Next week, we will jump into something else. We're really close to putting out this album now, so hopefully we can dive into some album tracks and stuff and have some fun with it. But hope you've enjoyed this one, and see you very, very soon. Cheers, guys.